Béla Tarr, a Hungarian film director and screenwriter, is a towering figure in slow cinema, known for his bleak landscapes, philosophical depth, and famously long, black and white takes. This video series will serve as an introduction to his work through his 5 most important films. Family Nest, released in 1979, was Béla Tarr's first feature film, which he made at the age of only 22, and stands as a raw and honest depiction of life in late socialist Hungary. The story is centered on the struggles of a young couple, who, together with their child, are forced to live in a cramped household due to the chronic housing shortage that plagued the country during that era. In its simplicity, the narrative captures the tension between individual hopes and collective disillusionment, making it a haunting and resonant work of Hungarian cinema. Shot in black and white, Family Nest uses the documentary approach and the method of direct cinema with intensive close-ups and improvised dialogues. Béla Tarr also frequently uses handheld camera and long uncomfortable takes that place the viewer directly in the suffocating domestic sphere, turning everyday arguments into scenes of almost claustrophobic tension. Main character's feudal housing request echoes the failures of the socialist system to address basic needs, making the family's private despair a symptom of wider structural problems. The film thus becomes both a deeply personal story and a subtle political statement of the cold and distant bureaucratic indifference. Ultimately, Family Nest marks the beginning of Béla Tarr's exploration of human suffering and social stagnation, themes he would develop further in his later, more stylistically elaborate works. Social themes and realistic style are also the backbone of his next film, The Outsider, released in 1981. The film tells the story of a talented but irresponsible musician who ruins his marriage with his drinking and problematic behavior. His third film, The Prefab People, from 1982, follows a husband and a wife in their failing marriage, as they recall what led up to their biggest dispute. These 3 films form Béla Tarr's so-called Proletarian trilogy, that marks the first phase of his creativity. In all 3 titles, Tarr explores the everyday lives of frustrated and often desperate people, placed in claustrophobic environments. This trilogy is marked by its focus on urban stories, highlighting the social and economic issues of the working class, and the documentary cinema verite style, where Tarr showed an affinity for the problems of the marginal and poor individuals. Some critics noted that Tarr's first phase is influenced by the works of John Cassavetes and the tradition of European modernist naturalism. This phase would last until the late 80s, when Béla Tarr first introduced the fundamental features of his new authorial signature, which he would firmly maintain over the following decades. The Damnation, released in 1988, is a bleak meditation on isolation, desire, and despair, set against a rain-soaked industrial landscape. The story is centered on disillusioned and depressed man, longing for a singer from a local bar, trapped in her own unhappy life. Rather than offering a conventional story, the narrative explores the emptiness of its characters' lives and the inescapable weight of their choices. The film thus becomes uncompromising meditation on decline, human futility, and time. Damnation marks a pivotal moment in Tarr's artistic evolution toward the bleak style that would define his later work. That significant shift began few years prior, in the TV adaptation of Shakespeare's Macbeth, realized in only 2 shots. and also in the film The Almanac of Fall, from 1984, where he explores the dramatic potential of color and light, focusing on interpersonal manipulation and intrigue among characters in a confined space. His collaboration with the renowned writer and a fellow countryman, László Krasznahorkai, which began in the mid-1980s, also contributed to that shift. In Damnation, Béla Tarr first introduced the fundamental features of his new authorial signature, which he would firmly maintain over the following decades. Atmospheric, stark, black and white cinematography, hypnotic long and slow takes with choreographed camera movements, and elaborately composed shots. Through that style, Tarr would establish his reputation and approach closer to that of Soviet film director Andrei Tarkovsky and Greek film director Theo Angelopoulos. With the use of metaphysical motifs and themes of moral decay in a predominantly post-apocalyptic landscape, Damnation manages to create a haunting atmosphere where time seems suspended. The relentless rain and crumbling buildings become symbols of spiritual decline, making the film a powerful study of hopelessness and the human condition. After the Proletarian Trilogy, where Béla Tarr showed his affinity for the working class and the people from the margins, his Transitional Period, and Damnation from 1988, Béla Tarr made his masterpiece, Sátántangó. Sátántangó, released in 1994, is arguably Béla Tarr's best film, his Magnum Opus, and it's widely regarded as a masterpiece of slow cinema. Spanning over 7 hours, the film's glacial pace and long hypnotic takes force viewers into a shared temporality with the desolate Hungarian village it depicts. The story is simple. Seduced by promises of a better life, a group of villagers agrees to pool their savings and leave the collective farm. Instead of achieving a collectivist utopia, they are met with hopeless spinning in the closed circle of the Pannonian mud and eternal rain. Tarr's adaptation of the László Krasznahorkai's novel is most often interpreted as a political allegory of late communism, but with an emphasis on the metaphysical. Sátántangó also contains elements of Christian allegory, clearly marked not only in the title, but also in the messianic connotations of the dramatic key figures in the film. The narrative is complex, fragmented, and circular, structured into 12 subtitled chapters. They follow the dance step of the tango, 6 steps forward, 6 back, and repeated observational perspectives. We see the same events from the viewpoints of different characters. All that is realized almost entirely in long scenes, filmed in a single uninterrupted shots, which last up to 10 or 11 minutes, and the entire film has only about 150 cuts. That is one of the longest average shot lengths in any motion picture. That kind of storytelling mirrors the characters' futile hopes of escaping from their bleak reality. This is best shown in a scene where little girl tortures and poisons her cat to death and carries its corpse, which garnered a lot of controversy. Black and white cinematography and masterful camera choreography deepens the sense of existential dread and emphasizes the physical chaos and hopelessness of individuals and the collective. While Mihály Víg's haunting score underlines the film's bleak lyricism, this Hungarian composer, poet, and songwriter who also plays the lead role of Ermias in the film, would become one of the Tarr's most frequent collaborators. In the end, the film challenges conventional storytelling, demanding patience and introspection, ultimately revealing the emptiness that lies beneath human schemes and illusions. Sátántangó has earned a reputation as an exceptionally stylistic work by one of the most prominent contemporary directors of a pessimistic worldview, and is often included in lists of the 10 best films of the 1990s. Werckmeister Harmonies, released in the year 2000, also brought Béla Tarr significant international recognition, just as Sátántangó did 6 years prior. This bleak, hypnotic, and deeply unsettling meditation on chaos, disillusionment, and the fragile structures that hold society together is set in an unnamed decaying Hungarian town during the communist era. The film is once again a successful adaptation of the László Krasznahorkai's prose, although the events in the film differ significantly from those in it, but the spirit of the novel and the premises of the writer's poetics are fully respected. At its core, Werckmeister Harmonies explores the tension between order and disorder, between the rational systems humans construct, and the uncontrollable forces that threaten to destroy them. This central theme is introduced in the film's opening sequence, where the protagonist, János, a gentle and idealistic man, orchestrates a demonstration of a solar eclipse in a bar, using the townspeople as celestial bodies. Through this simple, yet poetic performance, János illustrates cosmic harmony and the inevitability of darkness, foreshadowing the violence and chaos to come. The arrival of a mysterious circus brings an enormous stuffed whale and a shadowy figure known only as the prince. The whale, lifeless and rotting, seems to cast a spell over the townspeople, while the prince becomes a catalyst for rebellion, exploiting their dissatisfaction and fear. The director never fully explains these symbols, but their presence evokes a sense of apocalyptic dread and oppressive atmosphere of a world on the brink of collapse. This Tarr film also impresses with its visual style, characterized by stark black and white cinematography that amplifies the bleakness of the landscape and the desolation of its inhabitants. Through its haunting imagery and slow pacing, the film confronts viewers with uncomfortable questions about human society, power, and the inevitability of disorder. It stands as a powerful reminder that beneath the harmonies we construct to make sense of the world, there lies an unsettling, often terrifying reality we cannot fully control or understand. With The Man from London, released in 2007, Tarr didn't manage to make quite an impression as he did with his prior films, mostly due to the troublesome production of the film itself. The film followed the railway worker who recovered a briefcase full of money from the scene of a murder to which he is the only witness. Racked by guilt and fear of being discovered, he sinks into the frustration and isolation. Then, in 2011, Tarr released his final film, The Turin Horse. The Turin Horse is the final film directed by Béla Tarr. Set in a barren, wind-ravaged landscape, the narrative revolves around a father, his daughter, and their dying horse. Inspired by the story of Friedrich Nietzsche's mental collapse, after witnessing the brutal whipping of a horse in Turin, the film extends this moment of existential despair and asks what happened to the horse that Nietzsche embraced. The daily existence of father, daughter, and a horse is distilled into a minimalist rituals and practically devoid of narration. Drawing water, boiling and eating potatoes, tending to the horse, and silently enduring the ceaseless windstorm outside their home, as if God himself is punishing them. Tarr's camera lingers on these repetitive acts, capturing them with long, unbroken and meditative takes, with minimalist dialogue that emphasize monotony, oppressive atmosphere, and the passage of time. A hypnotic meditation on exhaustion, entropy, and the inescapable pull of decline, persistent as the wind that never stops blowing. Through this formal rigor, Béla Tarr achieves a cinematic language where repetition itself becomes meaningful, highlighting the futility of human labor against an indifferent universe, and a terror of nothingness. At the heart of the Turin Horse lies the concept of decline, not only physical one, as the horse weakens and the environment becomes increasingly desolate, but also spiritual and existential one. The father and daughter, though resilient, appear resigned to their fate, never expressing hope or despair in words, but embodying quiet submission to forces beyond comprehension. It is easy to conclude that Béla Tarr, like Nietzsche, holds that God is dead and that humanity is doomed to destruction. Indeed, as father and daughter stumble through their daily existence like zombies, their world falls apart, the well dries up, and the horse refuses to eat. In a certain sense, the father and his daughter can be linked to the biblical figures of Adam and Eve, and their miserable farm becomes a sort of perverted paradise in the form of an inhospitable wasteland. Moreover, since the events of the film unfold over 6 days of gradual apocalyptic destruction, it can be assumed that Tarr conceived the entire work as a biblical parable about the final divine annihilation of the world, lasting as long as its creation. Turin Horse would be Tarr's last feature film, after which he retired, and never directed another one. In conclusion, Béla Tarr's cinema stands as a resolute challenge to the speed, spectacle, and narrative certainty that so often define modern filmmaking. His films resist easy interpretation, demanding patience and reflection, but in doing so, they open a profound dialogue about the human condition, fate, and the oppressive structures that shape our lives. Tarr's uncompromising vision has not only redefined the possibilities of cinematic language, but has also left an indelible mark on world cinema, reminding us that film can still be an art of contemplation, resistance, and deep philosophical inquiry.